'cause you're lovely with your smile so warm and your cheeks so soft. There is nothing for me but to love you. As the
way you look tonight.
Back.
Hello, and welcome to Into the Wormhole with Larissa and Lauren. We hope you enjoy our final episode of 2021 featuring our extra special guest, Akie Bermiss. We'll be talking about the Emissary, the end of DS9, and kind of whatever other Star Trek stuff we decide to talk about. Happy New Year!
Yeah. I hear that Avery Brooks doesn't come to a lot of the conventions. Does he? I mean, I don't want to say he had a falling out with Star Trek, but did something happen that I'm unaware of?
I'm not entirely. The last time I saw him, he was in that awful Shatner documentary called The Captain.
Yes. And he seemed just sort of unhinged, and also like he did not give a shit about this at all.
Because I mean, that's okay. Like, I totally respect any actor who's like, look, I did this, but it's not like my identity.
Yeah.
But I thought I had recently heard that he was like had been talking to the actor who plays Jake Sisko.
Sarah Lofton.
About possibly so he would be interested in returning if it was to explore precisely rehabilitating that relationship with Jake. But also he's like a jazz musician or something, and he just wants to do that.
He just wants to
play
respect. Piano.
Yeah, but in that doc, he does seem very kind of out. He's like wearing like overalls and a giant.
Yeah.
I just remember his dress. I was like, this guy got super weird.
Yeah.
And I'm cool with it. He was like, I did 7 years of TV.
Yeah.
Did a couple more dramatic runs on stage. You know what? I got weird.
I loved how uncomfortable he seemed to make Shatner. Like
yeah, finally.
Yes, please.
Someone shake this guy up.
For fuck's sake. Because like Shatner is also weird as fuck. Like I saw, Dan took me to see his one-man show like 5 years ago. Maybe he was touring doing this one-man show. And for like a very large chunk of the middle of the show, he was just wheeling a wheelie office chair around the stage. Just like walking around the stage, pushing this office chair, talking nonsense. And it was amazing.
Okay.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Good on him.
Like, yes, fuck yes. But it was great to see that person get weirded out.
Yeah.
That person that's...
Everyone else was sort of like, ha ha ha, of course, William.
Sure. Avery Brooks is like, I'm not going to answer any questions speaking. I will only sing.
Yeah. And it also felt like Avery Brooks made him like journey to a mountaintop to speak with him. I don't know why I get that impression. Yeah. It's been a while since I watched, but I felt like he had to like go to a remote Himalayan chateau and like hang out with Avery Brooks to get this interview.
I think it's fucking great. I love it.
Anyway,
yeah.
I do hope that Avery Brooks, I would love for him to do some voice acting or come back for some of this Picard stuff, even if he wants to just have like enmity for Picard, like just to see. I was trying to do his voice last night when I was rewatching the final moments, and he's Jaco, but I can't. His voice is too low. Oh, when he's on the ship and he's like, I guess we're going in.
I know. Oh, God.
And he's like checking in with everybody and just growling like the lion that he is.
Yes.
Just prowling behind everyone. How did we do, Nog? You know, and Nog's like, she held up pretty well, sir. He's like, I'd say she did.
Yes.
Mr. Worf.
Yes. Yeah. Totally true. His range is very wide because when he gets really excited, his voice also gets very high. He
gets up to here. It's here. And he's so upset.
That's what I always love is what I call like the Sisko like staccato, where he gets upset and he starts talking like this.
It
is
real.
very effective.
Yes, it really worked.
It was real.
God, wonderful. I love him. I love him in this character. I love it. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I would love it if they were able to explore like suddenly Sisko's back, but I have to admit, after seeing Picard, part of me is like, maybe we won't touch that.
Yeah.
On second thought,
maybe if he's not to do a whole series on it. I also thought Picard had some. This is like, late began super strong and then opened up into some interesting space and then ended again in a kind of funky way. Like they didn't really like follow through on the ending.
Yeah.
If there's this existential machine consciousness out there that's only a telephone call away that wants to eat all organic life in the galaxy. Incidentally, also the spoiler alert, the plot of season 2 of Star Trek Discovery.
Yep.
If there's that, he just tells Soji just like, hey, no, don't. She's like, you're right.
Right?
And then
you know what? You are so you're
clicks
right,
the phone off and it's cool.
Yeah.
You know.
Also, like, do we need more Soongs?
Oh
yeah,
yes,
we really
yes.
don't.
I mean, no. I mean, yes, that's the question. The answer is no.
That is the question. The answer is no. No more songs.
I love Spiner. We all love Brent Spiner. Do we need more? I just was like, there's a lot of Soongs. There's so many Soongs. There's Soongs everywhere. They're literally everywhere. They're in every series. There's a Soong somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, they just can't. They love Soongs.
They do. They love them.
I think I've heard that Soong is in the Picard season 2 somehow.
Great.
Which I guess maybe he's critical for Asha. No, Asha's the one who's Soji, right? Is the one who lives. For Soji's like continued existence or something. But I just, yeah, I'm done. I'm so sick of Soong.
Yeah.
When we got there and it was like, hey, it's me, Data.
Right.
Basically, I was like, we could have done this better. So many cool things. Romulan, Ragnarok myth and how Romulan consciousness is disruptive to the Borg and Picard answering the things going on with his crew in terms of their like demons and wonderful things that they're trying to figure out. And then we still, in the end, it's like, I guess it was nice to say goodbye to Data. Picard was able to stop having his nightmare that he'd been having for 35 years of him and Data playing cards and Mars blowing up. So that's nice.
That is nice. It's nice to like put a little end cap on that. I'm just, man, we could have done all of that without having more Soongs though.
Yeah. We really
we didn't actually have to kill Bruce Maddox, did we? Like we could have. He knew what was up.
I was really broken. We're not talking about Picard
here,
but I was really broken up that we killed Bruce Maddox. I did not think it was necessary.
I didn't either. I was like, for fuck's sake, like give that. Like we've been waiting for this redemption arc for a long time. Like,
exactly.
Like you must know how important Measure of a Man is to the whole fandom, and then you're gonna almost give him a thing, and then he's gonna go bye-bye. So we're really not gonna get. We're not gonna get the. I was wrong to take Data apart. We're not gonna get the whole thing.
No. He just gonna be murdered by his ex.
Yeah. And as Larissa and I talked about, like, are we gonna have a trial? No. Or is she gonna get arrested?
What's season 2? Like... They're just gonna be like, you know what, Girardi, you're just so incorrigible.
Right. Oh, you.
But yeah, okay. So to bring it back, though, I think you're right, Lauren. I would not wish for an entire series dedicated just to like telling us what happened after the end of DS9. Like, I don't need that. I don't need anything to like change how I feel about it. I'm at peace with it now, even though I'm still sad about Jake. It would be interesting to see like a callback to it or a small reference,
like an epilogue. Yeah.
Or Picard runs into a young Aloysius Sisko, the unborn child of Cassidy and Benjamin Sisko, and maybe he's a little funky or something.
Why is the name Aloysius so funny?
I don't know, but it's always my go-to.
Great.
It would have to be It would have to be a much simpler story to tell, because I think that's one of the things. Sorry to go back to Picard, but Picard tried to tell again another like end of the world story, and it's like no, like focus it on Picard and the vineyard and what's going on,
character based.
Yeah, and I feel like that's what everything wants to be now. It's always the end of the galaxy. No, it's just the world.
Yeah,
and it's like I would want that to be a little 4 miniseries, literally just about he comes back one day, kind of like The Visitor we were talking about the episode, but just expanded on, but just sort of that smaller, more like tight knit story.
Yeah, you hear that, Kurtzman? I think this is a great idea.
Yep,
I think Star Trek could invest, instead of like always doing new franchises, do like BBC style, like 3 90-minute episode miniseries of, some super cool thing that you explore in depth. Like a short trek, but longer.
I love this.
10 hours.
Medium.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God.
This awkwardly named Star Trek franchise.
Yeah.
Medium treks.
I love it. Oh my God. Mm-hmm. Please bring Garrett Wang back and let us see Harry Kim get a fucking promotion. Like,
I think he became a captain.
No,
eventually.
but I want to see it.
I forget how we know that.
But I need to see it, though.
I got to see those pips, Harry.
I need to see somebody putting the pips on his neck. Otherwise, I don't believe it. But yeah, so that kind of concept of like really just taking one thing and going and deep diving it, I fucking love that, because every time they do that on any of the new shows, they take a little thing and they deep dive it. That is always my favorite shit.
Yeah. I think it's got to be in there. They're thinking there somewhere. I don't know if maybe Paramount, they're talking about making movies or whatever, which seems like not necessarily necessary.
No,
but what do I know? I feel like there's got to be a better way than movies. You do this miniseries thing, you have like a movie style event. Anyway,
I agree.
That
medium treks.
That's my feeling.
Yeah,
medium treks.
Yeah, and like movies just seem like a fucking gamble right now.
Yeah,
like
Star Trek movie.
I don't know. Like, I mean, we've evolved to a place now where it's just Marvel movies only.
Yeah.
Either it's Marvel or The Rock has to be in it.
True.
Hey, he's already been in Star Trek though, so
he has.
Just saying.
That's true.
That is. This is the only way it would work. This is the only way that a Star Trek movie would work, is a deep dive on The Rock's character from that one episode of Voyager.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we're back in the Delta Quadrant. That would be.
We know Jerry Ryan's on board because we already have her.
Jerry Ryan's. Yeah.
Oh my God, I love it.
She wakes up and she's back in the Delta Quadrant.
Oh God. I would 100% watch that movie. It has to be funny though.
I feel like in the new version though, they would have to have also like Ronda Rousey or something like that. Like we need some MMA people.
Yeah. Well, if it's going to be a lot of punching and kicking and fighting. But it could be like just it could be like Jungle Cruise in the Delta Quadrant, but with Seven Vine and The Rock, and they're just like searching for a thing, and it's not necessarily like fighting bad guys. It's like, who's gonna find the orb of Gangelron the fifth first? That could be it.
Yep, that could be it. That I would also watch that.
Yeah, I mean, so would I.
Yeah.
If it was called Delta Cruise or something like that.
Delta
I'd
Cruise.
be super down.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, I have a question for you guys.
Okay.
One of the things I just wanted to throw your way. Now, I have not seen Discovery, but I'm really curious, since you guys have, is Section 31 is in Discovery or not so much?
No, it doesn't exist yet.
Okay. Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, but it's definitely alluded.
Okay.
It's the preformative Section 31 definitely is around, right?
All right. Because I was
and they've talked about a Section 31 series that would star Michelle Yeoh.
Oh God.
Which, oh my God,
love.
please.
That would be, that would be a perfect contender for the medium treks.
It would.
We don't need 10 episodes of that. We need 3 solid feature length episodes.
And we need Michelle Yeoh to be kicking people in the face.
That's what I'm saying. She goes, it's like baddie of the week. Section 31, defuse this bomb, get this dilithium from this person. Those 3 things.
Have
solve
a fun
mystery.
Time travel cameo from William. What's his name? Oh no, the guy who plays he's Death in Bill and Ted.
You mean Sloan?
And he's the Section 30.
Yeah.
Sloan.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay.
Have a lovely little time travel cameo from Sloan.
Sure. Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
But just a little quick one. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have to be important to a plot or anything. You just show up and be like, "Whoops."
Right.
Everything's good. We good?
We good?
Good.
Good.
Well, that's kind of my question is looking back at the, in the last handful of episodes when Julian and Miles are trying to figure out the mystery of Odo's, they realize, oh my goodness, Star Trek actually infected Odo and he infected his people. And so we have the
Sorry,
Sloan.
You just said Star Trek.
Huh? What'd I do?
Star Trek. You said Star Trek instead of Starfleet, but
I do that all the time, honestly.
Cute.
Star Trek.
Star Trek infected Odo.
Star Trek infected me for sure.
Starfleet, yeah. And so we have some. Here's the thing: I never really loved the Section 31 episodes of Deep Space Nine, but I wanted your guys' opinion of how you feel, kind of looking back at the. Sloan Section 31. We had that episode where they kind of wrap that up, and Sloan is dies. But do you guys have any thoughts on that?
I kind of always thought those episodes were sort of fun. I mean, there's a spy element to them. There's always, I love mystery episodes too. Mm-hmm. They're kind of silly, I guess, and they're also Oh yeah, his name is William Sadler.
There we go.
Sorry, I had to look it up. Love him as Death. Great bass player.
That's right.
I have fun with them. I think it's fun. I think it's funny.
I just thought you would be totally against them to some degree because you say how earlier in your childhood you were just so Starfleet is Starfleet and Star Trek is Star Trek, and Section 31 is so anti those ideals. I thought you would be very that's not Starfleet the way.
Yeah, but I feel because DS9 came out when I was more grown up.
Okay, fair enough.
I didn't have as much of a problem with it. TNG does the Star Trek things I wanted Star Trek to be when I was a kid. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Always. But DS9 breaks all those rules on purpose. So it makes sense that they would bring in something like Section 39.
I say Section 39 and meant Section 31. We're saying 31. The wrong.
Section 31. Section 30. Section 159.
Section 45 20.
Yeah. C section.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
40.
But the first time you watched Deep Space Nine, you were kind of miffed by the religious tones.
I was.
Oh, yeah. Interesting. Okay.
But I think that's because I was not raised with any religion at all. And so I didn't have a frame of reference for it. Because I had nothing. Because I'm a 100% heathen. Because both my parents are scientists.
Heathen. I also feel in Deep Space Nine, the religious stuff is really serious. Yeah. Whereas the Section 31 stuff is serious, but also very hijinksy.
Yes.
It's very
yes.
We're going to get into also I loved the Ferengi episodes where all the Ferengi get together and have to pull off some caper or fight some bad guys. I forget. There's one that's
Iggy Pop shows up.
Iggy, what's the one with the 7 of them get together?
The Magnificent Seven.
The Magnificent
Ferengi.
The Magnificent
you're
Ferengi.
Right, you're right.
Based on the Magnificent Seven.
Magnificent Seven. Loosely based
Western,
on
yeah. I might need to watch that right after this, but
you do. It's great.
I feel Section 31. I have a weird relationship with it because it's an interesting concept to have a black ops part of the Federation.
Yes.
But it almost always leads to some sort of detriment to the Federation. Every time Section 31 comes up, it's when it comes up in Discovery, it's whatever will become Section 31 is bad and out of control. When it comes up in Deep Space Nine, they're keeping secrets and they're out of control. And when they get, I think one of their biggest roles was in Enterprise.
Yes.
With Lieutenant Daniels, that was his name was or whatever, who was like
God,
Section
I
31.
don't remember.
Section 31 and from the future.
Oh, I've forgotten this storyline.
Because they were doing the whole thing with their temporal Cold War business. That was the whole...
Oh my God.
The whole Enterprise thing was like, it's from before, but we'll make it seem like it's up to date because there's a Cold War from factions in the future or whatever. Anyway,
it was their excuse to like make things look more modern.
Yeah. You're on an old rusty rust bucket Enterprise that can't do more than warp 5.5. Yeah. But there's a temporal Cold War. Yes. So cool. You can get this cool gun. I always felt like
these screens that have no screens, they're just floating in the air.
Whoa.
Yep. Whoa.
Yeah. But then they like Section 31 winds up bringing Arthur to the future and being like, this is why we need your help, because your success on this mission means that we'll have peace now. But then it's not peace because the Section 31 is like engaging in covert tactics. So it also breaks the concept of the Federation being like a utopia, because now it's like, sure, it's a utopia that's more like America, where it's like if you're in San Francisco at Starfleet Academy or on Earth, it's great. On Vulcan, wonderful. But in extra Federation territories, we're doing all this kind of like questionable world building. Total. But we can break the Prime Directive because we're Section 31. It's just. Yeah.
And we're not acknowledged by the Federation. The Federation's going to be like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, we have no recollection of that event happening.
Yeah.
In Picard, Section 31 is responsible for killing the robot. It's just like...
It does do the Star Trek thing, though, which is the hold a mirror up thing.
Yes, and you're totally right about that. Yeah.
And I appreciate that, because that's some real shit that we are doing to each other all the fucking time. There are always going to be some people that want to like have that extra bit of control, who want to like get in there and see like how much they can fuck up shit.
Yeah.
You know, and like convince people that they're necessary, that this shit that they're fucking up is necessary for everybody's freedom, you know?
Right.
That's some shit we're going through currently. So I look at Section 31 and I get where it came from.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But I can appreciate it more if it was started by a Terran from the Mirror Universe in their attempt to sort of get along with Starfleet, because then they'd be like, yeah, we like your ideals, but you know, we gotta do our Terran thing. So that kind of,
I love it.
That kind of bridges the gap for me, but it's still,
that would be like one little detail with this kind of new incarnation of Section 31 that would totally be like, cool, I'm in.
Right.
Because that would make total sense. I think what it is Section 31, my thought has always been, it's interesting conceptually and like from a philosophical place, but it's one of those things too, especially when you get different writers on board. It's like, I hope you guys are all on the same page, because it could be like a Borg Queen thing where it was like, isn't this a cool idea? But then like a few years down the road, it's like, maybe we didn't really think about this. So, I mean, the Section 31, I think it's just my taste. It's like, it's Sloan again.
Yeah, it does feel like it's like Section 31.
Yeah. And he's always like in like black leather and he's like in a corner smoking a cigarette, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, not smoking a cigarette, but he might as well be.
Yeah.
Just in a corner smoking a cigarette.
He's in a corner eating a jumja stick.
Yeah.
If only. A child turns around on the pomrod.
I know, God.
Like the pigtails, and it's like, Sloan.
It's me.
He rips off his face. There's another face under it. Oh, I love it. We have there's another podcast on our podcast network it's called San Dimas Today, and it's just a Bill and Ted podcast.
Sweet.
And they actually got William Sadler on their podcast and interviewed him.
Wow,
that's amazing.
And I was like, and I was like, did you ask him anything about Deep Space Nine? Not that you would. No reason you would. And my friends were like, no, we actually wanted to, but we got too excited. We just let the conversation go where it was.
Yeah.
But like, seems like dude's like just down.
I think of most
to be
people
on a little podcast, you know?
who are, yes, I think most of the actors are like they dig that. They get into it.
Yeah.
We're still get a thrill that that I'm gonna call everyone by their their show names. That Saru will like our posts. We're like,
yes,
can't believe he's on. You know, it seems so.
Yes, Doug Jones.
Doug Jones, exactly. But it seems like they know that like this has been true since the first series. Is that Star Trek is the fans really keep the series afloat. That writing campaign for season 3 is what saved Star Trek in the first place, and so I'm glad that so many of them will do these great podcast interviews. And also, you put me onto that. The McFadden, I was about to call her Dr. Crusher, the Dr. Crusher podcast, which I have listened to. I just crushed all the episodes of that.
No pun intended.
Oh God, it's so wonderful. It's so fucking wonderful.
Yeah.
God, I love Gates McFadden so much.
Yeah.
I have not a last question, but a question about the Emissary.
Mm-hmm.
And something that I've thought about a lot and never really come to like a strong conclusion to, which is the whole concept that the Emissary starts out as that the Emissary is of Bajor, but he's not Bajoran.
Mm-hmm.
That like the prophets went to Earth to create him instead of going to Bajor, which is right there.
Right.
And what that sort of like message feels like.
Yeah.
Or might feel like maybe to like, you know, someone whose ancestors are from a country that's been colonized to all fuck.
Yeah.
And even though I love the character of Cisco and I love DS9 so much that can feel problematic to me in my inside my heart.
I have thought about this a great deal because
good. Let's talk about it.
I agree with you. It's like the one thing you always want to avoid, not you always want to avoid, as a writer of millions of TV shows. The one thing that I think can be kind of a drag is the like external savior monomyth.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's right. I think obviously in terms of like mechanics, you know, looking at from a meta point of view, like they wanted to make this bond between Captain Cisco and the planet Bajor strong. So they you know, part of dealing with the religion was that he was now fundamentally tied to it. He couldn't walk away from it.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that mitigates it doesn't like really erase it for me, but thinking that if you're approaching it from the idea that a new perspective was necessary, someone who could see Bajor from the outside, while also learning about it, was open to learning about its culture, not coming to like be a conqueror, but coming from it to understand, even if they then had like a threadbare connection to it, could be useful for Bajor's future, you know, to be able to get out off the planet. And then the third thing is that I always go back to that episode where that other dude comes out of the wormhole and he's like, I'm the emissary, and he sucks. He's like, women should go into the kitchen and men must wear this thing, and he like totally
what are
sucks.
they called? I forget what they're called, but he's like, everyone needs to go back to their whatever their assigned jobs.
Oh yeah, it's like a caste system. Yeah, exactly. That thing, I was like, whoa, dude.
Oh shit, no.
So in many certain respects, like, and that was only abandoned because they were occupied, the caste system. So like there is a benefit to not having to being anti-traditional in certain ways. Mm-hmm. And in the end, I also think the emissary Cisco shows up. He's there for these 7 sort of turbulent years when there would be a lot of conflict. Maybe the prophets knew what was on the other side of the wormhole and how that would affect the Alpha Quadrant and Bajor specifically, but also
they definitely knew.
Yeah. Also,
they had to know.
He's there to create that bond between Bajor and the outside world and help it achieve its independence. And then I love that when he's gone, It's Colonel Kira who steps into his place and becomes the administrator of Deep Space Nine. This new style non-sculpture, because remember her cast was she's supposed to be a sculpturist, and she was like, I'm terrible at this.
God, that shot of her trying to make the birds. And she's like, just like destroys this bird that she just made. Yeah.
I think it would have been revolutionary if like Kira had just been in charge, period, end of story. But I liked that they sort of like geared up to this thing. Like Bajor had to join the Federation, so they needed someone on Deep Space Nine who he wasn't really in charge of Bajor, but because he had this spiritual connection to the Celestial Temple and the prophets, he was forced to enter into their cultural life in a way that Starfleet officers normally probably would not.
Yeah.
And then he becomes part of their larger sort of like ephemeral like myth or canon. But as they have turned themselves into like a power in the sector and like helped liberate their former captors, and now one of the people who like was instrumental in all that, Kira, who like, let's talk about my favorite episodes of Deep Space Nine, the throwback to Terok Nor episodes.
Oh shit!
They're super dark, but I love them because they're
so fucking dark.
Yeah, they show like these same characters, but in like this dystopian, all the cages and everything on the thing, and like Quark's still there, like still trying to make money, but like in a vastly different kind of world. And I loved those episodes. And so I love that Kira went from that to now sort of like this place of being the like, I don't know, what is the person who's in charge of Deep Space Nine anyway? They're not like the governor of Bajor. They just run the station.
They're the mayor.
They're the mayor of Deep Space Nine, which is like a little outpost.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, she's just probably the commander.
She's colonel by the end, but
she's colonel by the end. But like, is that
a sheriff?
Colonel. Yeah. Yeah. But like, colonel is like her rank.
Yeah.
But then like, what is her job title? Like, is it?
Yeah, because like Cisco was sort of like
the
manager. She's
Mr. Manager.
She's the manager of Deep Space Nine. I guess sort of like their job is to monitor the wormhole and because Bajor is now going to become a way station for the sector. Deep Space Nine is super important because that's where ships dock and commerce happens and diplomatic things happen or whatever. So which an ambassador.
Which makes sense because in a lot of the conception of the show was that it was almost like the Wild West, and this was just like an outpost in where people would stop and shenanigans would happen and
shenanigans. So I love the way that you're saying that, Akie. I appreciate that because
it's a reach, but it helps me.
It does because you kind of have to get there with it. Like I still have issue with it. There's also part of me that thinks like maybe it would have been like that sees the writing of Cisco as now all of a sudden he is a prophet felt very reachy to me. Like it felt like you're really trying to make it like he's not an outsider.
Right.
When in some ways it would have been more interesting for him to have continued to be an outsider. Because then his relationships with like people like Major Kira would have been like him. I'm learning about this. I don't have any of this connection to your religion inherently in myself. And so I have to get there intellectually.
Yeah.
You know? Not I just wake up one day and I find out that I'm actually a prophet and then I'm like, sure, now I'm a prophet and I understand everything. Cool.
Well, wouldn't it have been amazing if that episode where the guy does come back from the wormhole and if he really was the emissary and they were like, you know what? We like you better. And he's like, you know what? I want the role. And so, you know, whether it's free will, but like you said, it's just like poof and you are it, and to make it something more symbolic about kind of the responsibilities and the thing we choose. And
that's true. He did, because of that episode. I mean, when that dude shows up, that's still early enough on that Sisko is relieved. He like never wanted to be the emissary. He kind of hated having to be part of that, going to attend services in that like church that's on the promenade or whatever, and all that stuff. And then he really has to like choose to be the emissary because that's the only way to stop this guy from sort of tearing Bajor apart between traditionalists and modernists or progressives, if you will.
Yeah. And then there's that one Vedic who like fucking murders someone straight up.
Oh my God.
He's just like, he just didn't want to do his job that we gave him, so I murdered him.
Yeah. Which I'm allowed to do by traditional law, right? Thanks, emissary. You know.
Yeah, thanks, emissary. Love you.
Yeah. Love you. Thanks for coming back.
Yeah. Yee. Yeah, I mean, I feel like it sort of, in some ways, like negates a lot of the like hard, like internal personal work that Sisko did.
Yeah.
To get to a place where he made the choice to be in that position.
Right.
And it negates the work that he did to have a relationship with the Bajoran people.
Yeah.
But also, you know, people fucking love space magic, man.
Space magic is cool. Space magic is cool, and
it is.
He's when he shows up on Deep Space Nine, he's keeping it together, but he's a broken man.
He is. He's so broken.
He's like,
poor baby.
So angry at Picard still for when he was Locutus.
God, I love that part. I love those parts so much.
That part is so. I feel like that is part of what will separate people who like Deep Space Nine to those who hate it, because some of them cannot have their homeboy Picard taken down a peg by someone so actively disliking him in that pilot, and they just cannot stand it.
They're like, "How dare you?"
Yeah. Whereas I love that they shot such a bold choice to be like, this guy is pissed because you killed his wife. And Picard, who's wonderful at many things, but not great in terms of empathy. He really has to work on empathy, and he's not in an empathetic state in that pilot, because he's sort of like, you'll be taking over this space station, Commander Sisko, and I'm just here to convey, you know, he's like in his,
I don't even know why I'm here. This is a very far away place, and I don't need this.
They wanted the flagship to show up, so very good. Thank you for coming. You know, Sisko's like, you know, almost turns down the job.
Yeah, he's like, I'm gonna fucking kill you.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think there is like, again, you're talking about space magic. There's a healing to him having been the emissary for all those years too, because he's forced to grow spiritually in the embrace of this Bajoran moral religion as he's healing himself and becoming he was always a great dad, but he becomes an even better father by being forced to sort of like grow beyond his trauma. And let his wife go, which is like a big part of those early.
Twice.
Yeah, twice. I know. Woof. That
Look at all.
when he is get pulled away. I'll never forget that in that first episode.
Oh,
he's like, no, you can't leave her. He's doing you can't leave her.
Yeah, and he's got like a wide vibrato.
Yes, he's like, no. Mom, no. And they're like dragging him out the door. Oof.
That's a really good Sisko in Peril voice that you just did. Congratulations.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. You're totally right about this healing journey that he goes on, right? And in a way, the way that they write it is that he becomes a better father and also a better space dad to Bajor.
Space dad.
To the unwilling savior thing, who then comes around, like the turning point being when he actually realizes he wants to be the emissary. I am at peace with Deep Space Nine. You know, I fucking hope I'm at peace with Deep Space Nine at this point.
And I have one final. So this note that I wrote as I apparently can't watch Star Trek without taking notes anymore.
Taking notes.
Now it's a thing that happens. I just start writing things down. But part of I thought the explanation for there being this emissary is as I was watching this final episode and like a whole town in Cardassia gets destroyed, a third of the Federation United Romulan Klingon fleet gets destroyed. In the end, it's like 8 million plus dead in this war, let alone like the war's been going on for 4 seasons and it's been in the Gamma Quadrant or whatever. Yeah. And all the death and destruction that's happened. It's like, given all this death and bloodshed, I wrote, there must be a higher purpose or a higher power. I think that's the series is like, there has to be this larger context, most of which we can't see, that gives an explanation to how awful so much of the experience of these characters has been, even as they built these beautiful, strong friendships and relationships that, like, Miles has been tortured every season by some kind of mind control.
Yeah. Oh God, that was so terrible.
That one was so terrible. Oof. Kira's scars from like just the occupation, which she's got under control, but like really early on, she's still very sensitive to that, and like Dukat, whether or not he's redeemable, Damar, whether he redeems himself in seeing the light of his ways and then dying in that moment.
Yeah. Oh my God, I just remembered that,
all that stuff.
Kira's mom fucked Dukat.
Yep.
Also, shit.
Dukat, listen, he's a bad guy through and through, but he has got some serious Cardassian charisma.
We talk about that. He is charming.
Whenever he shows up on his thing on the in Deep Space Nine, he always swaggers around the room with his little neck flares.
Huge neck.
He's got he's got a thin, long neck when the flares are long, whereas other Cardassians are sort of squatter. So he's just like, he's like a bird or something.
He is kind of like a bird.
Which works for me because I always think of Sisko as a cat.
Yes, he very much is. He has a lion face.
And he's very growly.
Yes.
He's very like, Oh, when he says, he's like in a mood, and then sometimes the door rings or something, and instead of, he does his take so weird, he goes, yes, come in. Like in this like quiet voice, you're like, what? It's even creepier.
You're like, he's definitely thinking about something else.
Yeah.
Yes.
Also, chefing. I love that he cooks. But
chefing.
So excited when he cooks. He starts talking in his high voice.
Yes.
But
I love it.
All these these tragedies happen. Deep Space Nine is supposed to be is a dark spin-off of Star Trek, and it was meant to have these things that are unresolved. How we come to grips with, even with Julian and his eugenics. He's like a con, basically,
Yep. And all of his eugenics friends.
All of his eugenics friends. But his best bond is with Miles, and even it's mentioned because he's dating Ezri Dax.
Yes.
And she's like, "What do you want to like?" All of his things that he used to do with Miles were all these things where they're on the losing side of some valiant stand that gets overrun. And she's like, you should really explore why you have all these annihilation fantasies. And he's like, do you think so? Because they were constantly. Anyway, I just loved all that, and then I thought it really would be sort of a ending if there was not a higher sort of like, this happened to drive all these people into new places or new states of consciousness where they are useful to the universe. And for Sisko, that means he has to go to the ultimate, the pinnacle of the loss of body to experience time non-linearly for whatever his purpose is. But it means that Kira and Odo has to go back to the Great Link and all that stuff, which is so melancholy and sad, but is so necessary. Anyway, Worf becoming ambassador, such a small thing, but so huge for considering his arc from TNG.
Yes.
That he is now, ambassador for the Federation to the Klingon Empire and has restored the House of Mog. And I mean, all these things are great. And then Quark is just happy that someone's coming down on, the part that truly broke me. I know it's happening every time is when Quark confronts Odo and Kira in the corridor, and Odo is super cold to him or whatever. And Kira's like, I'm so sorry. And Quark's like, that man loves me. It was written all over his back.
Another great quip. Yeah.
Love it. Yeah. So
there are so many beautiful relationships in DS9, and Odo and Quark are one of my favorite ones.
Mm-hmm. Just antagonizing each other in the best ways.
Great.
They are,
but then also occasionally like sitting down and laughing.
Yeah, they are truly in love with each other.
Yeah,
that is that is a bond. Like if one of them was in life-threatening danger, the other one would be there in a heartbeat.
Yes, very much.
I felt that very strongly.
Definitely. I love how you're saying that, like, there's a larger purpose. There's a bigger thing, and then pointing out all of these journeys that our characters have gone on, and the big steps that they're taking at the end of this series. But in also another way, I kind of feel like the way that this all goes in some ways in my mind reminds me how all of these people are just tiny bits of a bigger thing. Even though big things are happening in their own lives personally, like it sort of has like a Carl Sagan pale blue dot kind of vibe to it as well, where like we're all like focusing on these tiny little things in our life that are big in our lives, but in the grand scheme of everything, it's not actually important.
Right. Right.
And that is something that has always made me feel spiritual in a way. Like when I think about being tiny and insignificant, I love it.
Tiny and insignificant. I love it. Yeah.
I curl up in a ball and on the floor, but
but like that feels like it takes the pressure off.
Yeah.
And makes me feel like, yes, the things that are important to me do matter because they matter to me. And they don't have a huge, they're not so huge. So I can be like, yeah, go for it. It's not actually a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? So I love that there is that macro and micro simultaneously on top of each other, because that very much is what life is. Like there's so many layers in DS9, man. It's like a croissant.
It's like thrice folded, long rested in a fridge. I couldn't agree more. Because I've been trying to make croissants for 2 weeks, but also
it's difficult,
and it's super hard to get it right. And what is right anyway? I do love that about Deep Space Nine, and I also love that this last episode is called "What You Leave Behind." What you leave behind. The doc is what we left behind, but because everyone who moves forward into this new adventure or whatever it is their new thing is forced. Every single one of them is forced to leave something behind to get out of their comfort zone. So everyone who was together is basically splitting apart, including at the very final moment, Jake. But I do love that it didn't just end with Jake looking up at the stars alone. It ends with Kira coming over and putting her arm around Jake, creating that like another inversion of that relationship where like Sisko came and like awkwardly tried to be a mentor to her, but not really being able to fully. They had to like find a way to fit. And now Kira's going to, even though he has Cassidy, but I think Kira is more of a mother figure or a parental figure to Jake since he's been with her for 7 years. And her being there with him, I think, is about the most profound person that could be standing with him there, looking up at the wormhole in the end.
I totally agree.
Yeah. I think one thing that's really nice about that, and some of the stuff you guys were talking about earlier, for the record, I'm the white woman in the room. So, it's like, should I talk about this? Yeah. Like,
get in here. Yeah.
But no, I mean, when you talk about Kira, everyone coming from their trauma and kind of having these really like split backgrounds where, you know, parents are lost or homes are lost, families, worlds. And I think a big theme of Deep Space Nine is choosing your family and finding your family after loss or, you know, something that happens. And so I totally get what you guys are saying about Sisko and that kind of like the savior complex. Like, thank God he wasn't a white captain, and you know, we'd have like the white.
Oh
savior.
my God,
that would have been
right. That would have been like,
oh.
But I think a lot of it is.
What if? Imagine if he was the actor that played the Maquis guy.
Oh,
the Maquis guy.
Yeah.
How gross that would have been.
Exactly.
I would have been so grossed out.
But,
I'm the emissary.
But there's so much with Sisko.
Read Les Miserables. Sorry.
Yeah, but you know, with Sisko even deciding like, I'm gonna live on Bajor after, you know, I'm done with this war and stuff, like I'm gonna retire here, and like realizing that he's, you know, the phrase you guys were talking about, like, of Bajor, and I think that's definitely an issue and kind of an archetype that we need to kind of be aware of in future media and stories. I think maybe going forward, what's really nice with people seeing Deep Space Nine today is maybe this could be me just being hopeful, but people will see it as an allegory or a story for, again, like finding your home and finding your people, because you know, I have so many college students who are, you know, LGBTQ, or they come from homes where they don't really get along with their family and they're not accepted, but they're finding their families that do. And there is something nice about, like you guys saying, like Kira being that parental figure to you know, Jake and Nog coming together, even though their cultures are against each other, and
healing for Kira as well, because she lost Ziyal.
Exactly.
Yes.
Or I mean, she just, again, the occupation, she lost like everyone.
She lost everyone. Yeah,
she
totally.
lost literally everyone. Yeah.
That. So I mean, there is something nice about that Deep Space Nine family, just how everyone's coming together. That doesn't really fix all the issues we're observing, but at least it's kind of like a silver lining.
Right. And as much as, well, I mean, you need look no further than the Fast and Furious franchise, which I've only watched like 3 of. I don't know what's happened in the last 15 years, but I do know.
Yeah.
It's all about family.
Oh, man. And it also has The Rock. We're talking
family.
about The Rock again.
We're talking about The Rock again. I mean, how can you not? Yeah. And I think that the new discovery is about chosen family. And so much more has been made of the idea of having to find a place with people with whom you find family, even if that family is not perfect. Like a critique for TNG would be, for me, because it's all Starfleet, there's no real interpersonal conflict. You know, everything is resolved very easily.
Again, I will say that TNG is competency porn.
It is definitely competency porn. And I would also add that it's like ASMR for an organized mind. It's just like everything is orderly. You know, nothing is ever, even when things are falling to absolute shit, they're like, you know, downgrade to yellow alert. Meet me in my ready room. I would like to play. Like everything is just mwah.
Oh God, it's so soothing.
Yeah, it's very soothing. And then there's that little hum of the ship underneath everything. I do think
you're totally right. Yeah,
Deep Space Nine is a groundbreaker in terms of like the idea of like these. I don't even want to use the word misfits, but misfits of a certain type. Even Sisko is a bit of a misfit as far as Starfleet, because he's so scarred by Starfleet that they find each other there and all come together in fits and starts of misunderstanding and understanding and getting together and growing apart. And it's kind of works out too. I was just thinking that I hate that turned out it was like because of a contract issue, but that Jadzia died so that Worf also has to deal with this immense loss.
Yeah.
Again. And he has to confront Esri. He has to confront the echo of Jadzia, like right after she died, a couple weeks later or whatever.
Yeah,
and they have their.
He really never got to do that with Kalar.
Yeah.
It was just like, she's dead, and now you have a kid. There we go. There's
Yep.
He never. Yeah, but this time he actually has to go through the grieving process and have that experience. It's so that's so true.
Well, and I love how I do love how the show kind of, gives us whiplash, because he has this whole episode about going off on this grand adventure to get her to Stovacor and this kind of closure. And then she's like, hi, I'm back.
Yeah.
He's
like, first let's sleep together in the bushes. But then I'll be like, we should get married. And then you'll be like, what? No. And then what? And
then you'll be like, Julian.
Yeah. And then we'll just have an awkward, great. We kind of just understand each other. You're my ex's new consciousness.
Yes, exactly. And I love how in the flashback scene, since she's only been there one season,
yes,
like, remember this episode from 2 weeks ago? Oh,
yeah. Yeah.
Oh God, so
the way
good.
you look tonight.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
The way you looked 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
About what you said about DS9 being this chosen family of misfits, and that sort of becoming now what Star Trek does really well. It's kind of beautiful to look at Discovery that way, because I hadn't thought about that really totally with Discovery, strangely. And now I'm like, oh yeah, yes, that is what Discovery is.
Yeah.
And they're all forced to be family too, especially now. Sorry, Lauren. Not going to say that much.
Not going to tell you why, but they're forced to be family.
They're forced to be family. But this idea in, I think, the millennial generation is very strong. That a lot of us are experiencing this generational rift with parents, with family. I think especially because of politics right now, and because of the pandemic, a lot of stuff like that,
right.
And because of just a sea change of biases, the generational sea change of being more accepting of more kinds of people, just in general. And I think a lot of millennials, I think we've been sort of the first generation that a lot of us have had to really look around and piece together our own families. I mean, especially people in the LGBTQ community.
Yeah.
And so I think that we relate really, really hard to this chosen family concept when we see it on television. And that is a fucking beautiful thing.
Right.
I appreciate that. I mean, even though I'm a person who's very close to my blood family, I live very far away from them.
Yeah.
They all live together in Ithaca, New York, and I'm here in Nashville. So I have to have something, because they're not around.
Yeah.
And I also have ADHD, so I forget I have a family sometimes. But this idea that, like, I'm far from home, again, sort of like being on a spaceship, far from home.
Yes.
And I have to create a family from those who are around me. And those people may be quite a bit different from me and have a very different background from me and have different experiences. And the way that we become a family is finding similarities, and how beautiful that whole journey is. I fucking love it. And I feel like seeing DS9 be sort of one of the first to, like, specifically make it that way, because Voyager came later, and Voyager is also more episodic.
Voyager is they're stuck together, but if they have a baddie of the week, they have like this week we're here,
Yeah. So I appreciate that, and I thank the team at DS9 for doing that for us. Because DS9 still, even though TNG is like my Trek that I grew up with.
Yeah, exactly. Same.
DS9 still is the Trek that makes me that gives me the most feels.
I feel like DS9, TNG is what I grew up with, and DS9 is when I came of age.
Oh,
You know.
Ooh, can I? This was one I heard at a convention. Well, I wasn't there, but it was a recording where they asked someone to pick like their favorite, and they said like that's like picking my mom or my wife. They're women that
Right.
were the most important women at different times in my life, you know.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
And it's like, ooh, I like that because at the different
Yeah.
stages. But I was thinking about it because earlier I felt like I was just nitpicking at the end of Deep Space Nine, but really rewatching it, and especially the end, I'm so impressed with how many things they touched upon, not just themes, but just story wise. And,
Yeah.
in that last thrust of those 7 episodes, sure, I wish they had like a little bit more of an ending with Ducat, but I mean, everything, they wrapped up everything. They tell you what happens. And even though there is a little bit of like, what do you think happened with Cisco? Like, they did a really good job at wrapping that up.
Yeah, because there was so much shit. There was so much shit to wrap up.
Can we also talk about how the whole war ends because Odo comes down and he's like, let's make this connection.
I know, I love it. It's like
and you'll call it off.
It's in a second, in a nanosecond. It's like, okay, I'm going to go cure our people. You're going to go out to trial. We figured it all out in a nanosecond.
Yeah. They're like, war's over.
Yeah.
And then, big move, pouring the blood wine, being like, even though these were enemies, we're not going to drink over their dead bodies.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Cisco does it before the Admiral.
Shit.
He's the one that really says, like, no need. And then I love that the Klingon's like, all right, whatever. He keeps drinking and smiling. Yeah, he's like, all right, humans. Glug, 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 glug.
He says, I don't need to make a toast over their dead bodies. And it was,
Yeah, it's true. Oh, I was gonna, I had something and now it just went away. Oh, it was just a nitpicky, stupid thing. It was just me being like, but he linked with that same changeling a bunch of times before and didn't try to stop the war before that. And now it's
That's
just me
true.
being.
But I think in all those instances, he was unsure of himself.
Yes.
The first time he joins with her. It's the first time he's joined with anyone in his recent memory. And every other time she holds this sort of higher power over him.
Yeah, she's kind of dominant.
Yes.
She's dominant. She represents the link,
Yep. Yeah.
And then Odo finds himself, I think, through his last few actually the last couple of seasons, he is able to explain his feelings for Kira. He comes to grips
he finally gets to smooch her.
He smooches her. They're like sitting in line together, and it's super sweet. And he also kind of has some trips where he comes to grips with what he was before in the occupation and how that's changed. And You're
right.
Well, and
so that's
absolutely true.
To be honest, too, he has a good card where he's like, "I'm curing you. If
I
can cure all of us."
Yeah, I can cure our entire race of people.
Right.
That's
if
true.
You call off
Yes.
the Breen,
Yeah.
The Breen, which always seemed like a Star Wars race to me.
Totally a Star Wars race.
It's because of the riders and the helmets they wear in Return of the Jedi. Totally.
Yeah.
Yep. And because you can't understand anything they're saying.
Because they're
I have to say, I'm so impressed, though, with how they work around that, because you can always tell what they're saying given the response of the other character.
Yeah.
Don't you feel it's very Charlie Brown talking to his teacher every time?
It is.
But I'm like, they do a good job with that. Yeah.
They do. I mean, I will say, I'll put out there that specifically Jeffrey Combs does a good job.
He does an amazing job. Jeffrey Combs is
Combs.
Amazing in this series. Big shout out to Jeffrey Combs.
Thank you for everything, Jeffrey
Killing
Combs.
it as a Weyoun from start to finish.
And
we love you. And Brunt.
He's just so good in that role. He's funny at times. There's other times he's absolutely just frightening. We have that one clone that's like, I don't really believe in this war.
Yes, the one defective clone.
Yeah. There's this, and then he actually comes to an end. We're not scratching our heads being like, well, what happened to Weyoun? Like, he's so good in that role.
Yeah. We're like, oh yeah, Weyoun's actually gone now.
Yeah.
No more Weyouns.
The Weyouns are done. There's a different Vorta at the meeting.
Yep.
At the treaty signing. If we had another 3 hours, I'd love to
Right?
just discuss the Vorta, the Founders, and the Jem'Hadar, because I always found that was their interlink. The Dominion really woke me up as a teenager watching those episodes. I began to understand things that I did not understand before in Star Trek and in science fiction, and how they related to real life, especially like
Yes.
this idea of like Ketracel White and the sort of suicide cult of the Jem'Hadar, but also the clones of the Vorta, and how that leads to this sort of strange, sort of pragmatic / psychotic efficiency, and then the Founders, and it just was so. It really always blew my mind.
Using resources to control a population.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember like when I put that together, and I was like,
yeah, and not only control but manipulate, which is even more difficult to break that.
And psychologically manipulate them, not just
into thinking that they're gods. I mean, that is the whole horrible colonial myth, but here it is like run amok and used like to great advantage. The changelings.
It's almost like Odo was the anti-emissary, because with the changelings, it was the opposite. Like everyone's a god, and he's like, I'm not.
My name just means the thing or whatever.
Right.
Sample. Unknown sample.
Unknown sample. Odo. Yeah. Oof.
Odo Tholomule.
No, God. Well, maybe you have to come back to talk about that on a villains episode.
Yes,
because we still haven't talked about the Founders.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about Dukat, but we haven't talked about the Founders. So you should come back and talk about.
I would love to.
All that.
We'll just have a Dominion episode.
Vorta. We should do a Dominion episode. I would love to be invited to that. Maybe for Easter, or you want to pick another big holiday.
4th of July.
4th of July. We could definitely talk about Dominion on 4th of July. Ooh, boy.
Or we talk about the Dominion on what I consider now to be formerly Columbus Day.
Formerly Columbus Day. Yes, absolutely. Next October.
Yeah, next October we'll talk about the Dominion.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Or before that, it doesn't matter. This has been fucking great.
This has been
so fun.
Absolute delight.
Yeah, Akie, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm so glad I could be part of this. I have enjoyed listening to your podcast since I heard about it.
Yay!
Turns out 2 months ago now, but it feels like 40 years ago. Just in
how
time has been moving for me. But yeah, and so I'm very, very excited to be on it.
Yay!
And to be talking Star Trek. And so thank you very much for having me.
Yay! Well, everyone, please check out Akie's podcast. Please, the name is so long. It's called
Set Phasers.
A highly illogical Star Trek podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I got it.
Mm-hmm. You nailed it.
Excellent. All of the musical moments in it, I just want to say, as a musician, I love them.
There's more coming, because every new season we got new things to sing about.
Yes, it's true. Yeah. There's lots of friendship moments to sing about specifically.
Yeah. Book, his sexiness, everything.
Oh, yeah. Before I forget, please, everyone, is it on your Instagram?
I think it might be on our Instagram. That is one that I'm so proud of.
It's
that I feel like I should just put it out there into the world. I'm like, here's
you should
a minute of slow jam for how sexy Book is.
Yep. But Lauren, you don't know. Book is a character on the new season.
Okay.
Introduced in season 3 of Discovery, and he is hot.
Super smoking hot.
Okay, I got a lot of stuff to look forward to.
But like hot, not only physically, but also like emotionally hot.
Yeah, like his character's hot. Like you watch him and you're like, oh, I get it.
He's got a lot going on, but also is still very empathetic and sensitive, which is pretty amazing. And so I don't know. I just like 2 episodes into getting introduced to him, I was like, whoa. Yeah.
I know. I was literally like,
all right.
Yeah.
How? Who? What?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah. He's excellent.
And so I wrote a song about it.
Yep.
Wrote a song about it? Goes like this.
And it goes like this.
It's excellent. So if you can find it on Instagram.
It's on my Instagram, or probably the Set Phasers Instagram. We're on. Yeah, we're at like Set Phasers on Instagram and Facebook and stuff like that. So It's all there.
Yeah. We'll link all that in our wherever we link that.
Yeah.
How do we do that? We'll tag you in
show notes or whatever. I don't know.
Show notes. We'll do it in show notes. Michael does that stuff.
I do the pre-stuff. Exactly. I'm the note taker and do all the talking. I don't know how to do anything post.
Yeah. I know how to make some memes out of some screenshots I took and then post things on Instagram, and that's how we do it. Lauren does all the cool stuff, all the pretty stuff.
I try. I make the art, and you guys were like bouncing back names for this episode at this time in recording. We haven't decided, I think, the final name, but all I can think of is you guys were picking some pretty long ones. And I'm like, guys, don't forget I have to make art around this name.
You should feel free to edit those down. I think
the title was getting very long.
It was getting pretty absurd. Yeah.
Find us in the collective at intothewormhole.show, on Instagram at intothewormhole.podcast. Into the Wormhole is brought to you by We Own This Town.
Yeah, also, Happy New Year. You know?
Happy.
I'll give you that drop just in case this winds up being a two-parter.